Today we have this piece of wood. Not sure what it is. It seems familiar to me. I think maybe I've turned it before. I'm not certain. The end you're about to look at now, see that nice yellow and then the brown? That's pretty nice. The other end is a fresh cut. I cut this in half. It was twice as long. It's now about 6 by 6. It was 6 by 12. I don't know how thick it is. I haven't measured it. I'll tell you in a minute. I'm not certain who I got it from. Maybe Arland Sanborn. It was over in a stack of wood that I did get from him, but I don't remember getting this one from him. Maybe. I don't know. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as we like to say here at Shady Acres Wood Shop. Howdy, let's take a closer look at it. It's about 3 inches thick. You can see that yellow I'm talking about, and you see it here too. I'm not sure this is the fresh cut. It seems to have gone away, so I don't know if it happens with light, or I don't know why it went away, but it's pretty cool. I hope it comes back. This is really tight grained wood, really tight. It's very heavy. I'm sure it's quite hard. The bark is pretty tight everywhere except right there, a little bit loose. But if I'm careful when I turn it, I don't think we'll lose a big chunk. Some of that will be turned away is what I'm getting at. So I'm just going to take this over here to the drill press, drill a flat spot for my chuck jaws to set against. In the middle of that, drill a hole for my woodworm screw. We'll get it mounted up on the lathe and get to turning. This is what I have, the flat spot and the hole for the worm screw. That's tight. It's really cold out here, so you might hear my heater running. I think this might be Acacia. I forgot about that one. It could very well be Acacia, and in that case, we're in for a treat. Looks like we're in for a treat anyway to me. And I did glue this edge of the bark down. Remember, it was loose, and it came out over here, so it went all the way down. So now it's nice and tight. I'm going to be cutting it away anyway. I just didn't want to rip off a big chunk. I'm going to be turning at 730 RPM, 5/8 inch bowl gouge, mask and face shield on. Well, we did lose a big chunk of it. Yeah, right there. Well, I'll save it if I need to glue it back on. I think we're probably going to be turning that away anyway. Yeah, it's almost turned away now, almost. Well, we're almost there. I'm inclined to come down here and flatten off the bottom. It's just a mess. Maybe lay out for a tenon or a recess, and then we'll know better what we can do with the side. That's the pith that's running through there and causing these cracks. So I'm going to go up just a little bit higher and get rid of it. Okay, we'll go with that. I'm going to mark out for a recess. Time to lube the lathe bed again. I'm going to go a little bit deeper and then take some away. I'm going to use my dovetail tool. Put a dovetail on the side here. Now I'm going to move some of this edge over here to the middle to make a little base for it to set on. Something like that. I'll come back over here and finish up the side profile. Okie dokie, Smokey. Time for sanding. I'm going to start the sanding with my Sandoflex. This is 180 grit, and that's as fine as I will go. I'm going to sand all along this edge right here on top. Sand the bark up nice and smooth, clean it up. When I'm done with that, I'll switch to my 2-inch disc starting at 100 grit, working up through 400 grit. I'll have the lathe spinning in reverse for that at 340 RPM, and I'll show you what that looks like as soon as I get my mask on. I'll be doing a little bit more of that, but that's what it looks like. That's what that looks like. I'll bring it back in a bit and we'll put some kind of finish on there. See you in a bit. We're going to go with feed and wax on this piece. It's sanded up so smoothly. I want to maintain that. And I think this wood is probably darker than it looks. And I think this will really bring it out. So let's see if that's the case. Yes, sure enough. And I'm going with Acacia unless somebody tells me different. I don't want to get any of this inside of there yet, but I'll sign it and then I'll put it in there after. This has some really cool cracks around the edge. I really like those. And the way I'm going to get in there is with a toothbrush. I'm going to use a toothbrush on the bark as well. And then the way I'll get it out of there is I'll spin the piece up and blow compressed air into it to blow it all out. And then I'll use a clean, fresh toothbrush to buff inside these cracks. These are so narrow up here. It's funny how these are narrow and the other end are quite wide. I don't know if you can even see those. I think you can. much, much narrower than this side. Isn't that interesting? And then this one looks like a smile. It doesn't take much of this stuff. If it did, or if the piece was much larger, I would get a little can out and put some in the can, but this stuff spreads quickly and evenly, and it's just easier to do it with a toothbrush. A little bit at a time. Doesn't take much. And I've been using this bottle of this stuff. I bought a second bottle because I thought I was going to run out. That was probably 3 years ago. It sits in the cabinet behind this one at the ready. And the rag that I use to put this on, I know I've mentioned my rags and brushes from Shellac, but this stuff is different. And I've been using this rag and this toothbrush for years. They just don't get hard because they're kept in a airtight bag. Oh yeah, that makes the bark look so good. You probably, yeah, you can't see it. Can you see it over there? It just darkens it up and brings out all the features. I'm just doing around the edge because of course we're going to turn away most of it to make it a bowl. Okay, so I'm going to let that set up for 20 minutes. Buff it up, turn it around, I'll bring you back and we'll start working on the inside. See you in a bit. I recently got a comment that would I please show the set screw, or grub screw, as some people call it in some parts of the world, on my chuck. They call that a reversing screw. I just call it a screw. That's actually in, this chuck requires an insert. This is an insert that screw is going into. Some chucks don't require an insert. They come pre-fitted to a particular size. This happens to be 1 1/4 by 8 threads under here. Some are 1 by 8, some 3/4 by 16. Just depends on what lathe you have. And what that does is you tighten that up. I tighten it every time I change the chuck, whether I'm going to be in reverse or not, just because I don't want to forget in case I decide to go into reverse and I didn't think about it. So I tighten that every time I change my chuck out, which is hardly ever, like 3 times a year. You tighten that up onto a shoulder that's on the threads under here. You thread the chuck onto those threads, and then behind those threads is a shoulder, just a bare shoulder, and you tighten that set screw up. When you turn in reverse, that keeps the chuck from coming unscrewed. On previous lathes, this is the first lathe that actually has that shoulder that I'm talking about, and if your lathe doesn't have a shoulder, I wouldn't, it probably isn't 1 1/4 by 8, it's probably 1 by 8 or 3/4 by 16. I wouldn't try and tighten up a set screw onto the threads because that'll mess them up. You don't want to do that, so make sure you have a shoulder under there. Just a bare shoulder, looks just like this right here. It's just smaller. Okay, I hope that makes it plain. It's good insurance. Hope that helps. As long as I'm showing that, I might as well show you this. I hardly ever do. So here's my recess that I made, and here's my chuck jaws, and this has a dovetail on the inside of the recess, and these chuck jaws have a dovetail on the outside. So I'm just going to put that on there and open the chuck jaws up into that recess. And then you always want to tighten it. I do it 2 or 3 times just because I want to be careful. Don't just tighten it one time in one hole. You use both of them. And now it's tight. Let's start working on the inside. We're going to be turning at 1100 RPM, 1/2 inch ball gouge, mask and face shield on. Uh-oh. There went the bark. Doggone it. Look at that. The whole dang thing. Well, that's not the whole dang thing. That is. Well, shoot. I don't know if that's where I fixed it or if that's the other side. I can't remember. Boy, those cracks go all the way through, don't they? But they don't go very deep. The deepest is maybe 3/8 of an inch, so it's not like the whole thing's going to come apart. But I'm going to have to fix that before we proceed. I got to go in the house and get my medium CA to fix that. I don't want to just use thin CA. I'll be back. I hope that holds. I think we're ready. Holding so far, isn't it? I could go just a tiny bit thinner. Yeah, that looks okay, doesn't it? Looks okay to me. You see, all those cracks are gone now, except just along the two ends. Got about 3/4 of an inch in the bottom. Quarter inch wall. Probably a 1/2 inch now. Yep. I'm going to shear scrape here just a little bit. That's good. I think that will do it. Yep, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch. Yep. We got it. Time for sanding. I'm starting the sanding at 120 grit, working up through 400. I'll bring you back here in a bit and we'll take a good look at this thing. See you in a bit. Oh, I forgot we got to put the finish on the inside, don't we? Yes, that'll help. I'm working in kind of a rush because it's windy again and it's supposed to get worse, and it's 38 degrees and it's 6 o'clock and I'm cold and I just dang near forgot this, but it looks pretty good. I gotta fix up the bark. I had to do a lot of sanding on the bark with the sanding disc in my hand, just softening the edges because it gets so sharp after sanding. So I'm afraid I messed it up some, but we'll get it. And then these cracks, I gotta put some stuff in there. It's sure funny how these cracks down here are so big and the other ones are so small. Okay, well that's pretty much what it's gonna look like. I'm gonna let it set here for 20 minutes while I freeze to death. And then I'm gonna buff it up. And then we'll take a good look at it. Okay, see you in a bit. Be sure you stick around at the end of the video so you can see the before and after shots of this piece. If you'd share the video, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, here it is. One Acacia live edge bowl in the books. And it's a beauty. I'm pretty dang sure it's Acacia. I'm so sure that I wrote it on the bottom. I can always sand it off and put something else on there if I'm wrong, but I think it's Acacia. Looks like Acacia to me. Slippery as all get out. Just smooth as can be. What do you think? Look at those tiny little cracks. Tiny little cracks. And then those great big cracks. I don't know what to think of that. And then somewhere we have a well, that way it's a frown. This way it's a smile. I sure like that yellow coming through there, the sapwood. Kind of pretty. Let me know what you think. Thank you, Arland Sanborn, for bringing this along for all to enjoy. If you like this video, thumbs up please. I'd sure appreciate it. If you're a subscriber, thank you very kindly. I truly appreciate that. I also appreciate that you took some of your time to spend with me today. That means a lot to me. I'm looking forward to your comments. So for now, this is Phil, Shady Acres Woodshop, signing off.